Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I wish to thank Caring for Life, Alex, for inviting Ojoy to talk about understanding and preventing elderly suicides. Ojoy, oh, yeah. So basically, I want to say that I'm from Ojoy, and Ojoy is a counseling center, and we serve seniors as well as adults with mental health. And we definitely have clients who are suicidal, and I really appreciate them coming forward and sharing with us about their suicidal thoughts. It's not easy, it takes courage to share with another person. But what is good is that once they share, we know that there's actually a part of them that wants to live. They don't want to be alone with their suicidal thoughts. So actually, there is a lot of hope when they do come forward and share with us. The only people I'm more concerned about are those who keep quiet, who keep the thoughts to themselves. They're all alone with these thoughts. And if nobody notice, the risk of taking their lives is very high. So hopefully, when people come in and become interested in suicide, like all of you here, really appreciate you taking your time, precious time off your busy life to come and attend this. You want to learn more about it, you want to know how to help, and mm, sorry, okay. Yeah, so I just want to say I really agree with Caring for Life's motto that suicide prevention is everyone's business. The more people in the community understand what suicide is about, you become aware and your antennas are high for people with suicidal ideation, then you're more likely to help to prevent somebody from taking their lives. Yeah, by showing some kind of interest, by pausing, in your daily life and just really um, taking making sure that they have your attention, yeah, so they don't feel so alone. Um, I think when Alex invited Ojoy to give this talk, he was sharing that the target audience would be people who are caring for elderly at home. So you may be a family member, or you could be a care staff in a nursing home, in daycare centers, in AACs, active aging centers, in other social service agencies serving seniors. You can also be a volunteer as well. And you could be the general public as well, right? So hopefully that is something for you to take back from this talk. And I really hope that, when you have some questions as I'm talking, please feel free to put it in the chat. And then we have a Q&A at the end, half an hour Q&A. Yeah, so my objectives for today's talk. First of all, I'd like to clarify some common myths and highlight realities about elderly suicide in Singapore. I would like to help you identify some warning signs and suicide risk factors in seniors. I'm going to use a composite case story to do that. And then I think most people would like to know how to ask about suicide directly and kindly. We want to be supportive in our conversations so that they know that they are not alone. Fourthly, maybe understand some practical suicide intervention strategies, and I'll be using a real life case example that is being served by an old joint counselor. Lastly, I would like to help you see some available training and support resources for suicide prevention, as well as for senior related concerns, right? And lastly, I would like to showcase some examples of community-based senior group activities that can enhance physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. Okay, so let's go on to some myths and realities about elderly suicide in Singapore. Just want to ask people, do you consider elderly suicide as rare in Singapore? Is this a myth or reality? Feel free to put your answer in the chat. Yeah, I won't be able to see it right now, but yeah, you can see what people think as well in this group.
We have a good mix of reality and myth in the comment.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing, Alex. Yeah, so actually it is a myth. It is not rare, okay? So the reality is that elderly suicide has been consistently among the highest rates across age groups. So, seniors age 60 and above form a disproportionately large share of suicide deaths in Singapore. In 2020, the figures we have shows that 34% of suicides that were completed involve seniors age 60 and above, which is 154 out of 452, as reported by SOS. In comparison, the ICA shared that only 15% of total resident population are those aged 60 and above. So if you like to see more statistics, this is a very busy graph, a very new one that was just published in July this year. Basically, it shows suicide by age group from the year 2020 to 2024. So if you ignore those busy figures, but if you look at the small table on the top right-hand corner, those are the figures that I can actually extract from online sources. So you could see that consistently it's about 100 something. You have more in the year 2020. It could be due to COVID, not very sure. That's just my guess. But if you want to summarize it, you could say that for every 3 days, you have one senior age 60 and above dies by suicide in Singapore. And that's only for those who completed suicide. It's said that there's about 1,000 suicide attempts for all ages in 2019. So it means that every day there's one senior who attempts to kill themselves in Singapore. Yeah. Is that very little or is that a lot? I think one suicide attempt is one too many, right? Yeah. So here's another one. Elderly people talk about death all the time. It's normal, not a warning sign. So is this a myth or reality?
So we are starting to see the first response, second response, mostly all myth. It has been a myth. 1% said it can be both,
Yeah.
but otherwise mostly it's myth. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so would like to say that it's like a myth, although it's true that some of our seniors in Singapore, actually quite a lot of seniors in Singapore, they are quite comfortable to instruct their children about like funeral matters, wake matters, post-death arrangements. For example, my parents, they have already bought their niche in the temple. We have done, our ACP, AMD, LPA, our will, we have done it. And both my parents are in their 80s, right? And my mom has already given away some of her jewelry to her relatives because she says she doesn't want me to have the trouble of doing that. Right. So for some seniors, they do prepare for the time of death, especially for those who are very open-minded about death being a part of life, right? But while this is true, if they say things like, I want to disappear, I want to go away, and they start giving certain things that they are still actively using that is very, very treasured to them, and they may have like very low mood, for example. So this may be subtle but significant indications of suicidal ideation, right? Suicide is not a natural part of aging. It's not a natural part of living for any ages, right? And most seniors do not want to die. What they want is relief from pain, from poor health, from lack of independence, from deep, deep loneliness, or a sense of hopelessness, right? And with the right medical, emotional, and social support, quality of life can actually improve. And once these are improved, then the seniors will want to continue living, right? Most of them. So another one, seniors don't really mean it if they say they want to end their life. You hear it all the time, right? 死了算了，不知道几时交登记, like I don't know when I'll surrender my NRIC, which is one way of saying, or maybe it's time for me to kick the bucket, or I won't live until, I won't live past next year, right? So sometimes they say that, and sometimes they say, oh, how wonderful it would be if I would just, sleep and then don't wake up the next day. Yeah.
So far, we have many myths some put reality, and there are people who indicated both as well.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, passive thoughts of wanting their life to come to an end is quite common, yeah, in seniors. But so sometimes it's a bit tricky to know when they actually will be taking action to end their life, right? Some may passively like eat less or don't go and see doctor, don't take medication, you know. So there's a little bit difference there, whether they are actively seeking to end their life, right? The means and methods of wanting to kill themselves is different. Yeah, but still, if they are starting to like withdraw from eating or withdraw from medical care, it's still a significant sign that we need to show some care and concern for, right? So we still consider it a myth. Um, Many elderly people who completed suicide actually gave verbal and behavioral warnings beforehand, and these signs are often overlooked by family, caregivers, or community members. And if we take such statements seriously, we can actually save lives. I do have adult children who can be very frustrated with their parents because they will say they use suicide to threaten the children to do things that they want. And sometimes the requests can be very demanding and unreasonable. Like, some seniors will say, "Oh, you quit your job, you come and live with me, you stay by my side 24/7 and you take care of every aspects of my life." So of course, in this sense, children may feel like they want to set healthy boundaries with their parents. They may not be able to fulfill every demand that their parents have. And sometimes they may overlook the seniors, like comments on wanting to kill themselves if they don't do certain things. So in such cases, it will be good to get somebody else in to help to mediate between the expectations of the seniors and what the children can actually do. So it's better to get some help instead of trying to manage it by yourself. Because you never know whether, one day they can really be so fed up that they decided to take their life. Yeah. So you know. So unlike younger age groups, that's why I'm not very sure because sometimes younger people can also have very planned suicide plans. But most of the time, if the elderlies were serious about killing themselves, their plans tends to be very deliberate, and you can see them having all these signs by settling affairs, giving away items, stopping medication, right? So that means that early detection of warning signs are very crucial. So in going further into what are some of the suicide risk factors and warning signs in seniors, here's a composite case. It's a fictional case, but the statistics, I mean, like the details are based on research from MOH, SOS, and other research agencies. So let's say we have Madam Lim, who is a 78-year-old widow living in a one-room rental flat in Bukit Merah. Her husband has passed away 5 years ago, and her two adult children were busy with their own families. They visited during festive seasons, but regular contact has dwindled, so maybe just once a year. She was physically frail with early signs of dementia and diabetes that required frequent medical follow-ups. Although she qualified for some subsidies and had neighbors nearby, she often described herself as a burden and useless now that I can't work or cook properly. Madam Lim had once been active in a residence committee cooking group, but arthritis made it painful for her to stand for long periods, so she gradually withdrew from community activities. She felt embarrassed about needing help and resisted volunteers who offered to accompany her to polyclinic appointments. So in private, she spent long hours alone watching television, missing her late husband. And over several months, Madam Lim showed subtle by telling signs. She gave away her treasured sewing machine to a neighbor, saying, "I won't be needing this anymore." She stopped picking up calls from her children, claiming they're busy, I don't want to disturb them. During a home visit, she told a befriender, "Sometimes I think I'll be better if I just disappear quietly." Right? So her befriender tried to comfort her, but didn't realize the seriousness of these remarks. And one day, Madam Lim did not show up at the void deck where she usually sat in the evenings. Neighbors later discovered she had ended her life at home. So her children, shocked and guilt-ridden, said that they hadn't realized how lonely she truly was, right? So in this story, there's no details on how she ended her life, but I want to spend the next two slides talking about the means of suicide that is very commonly used by seniors. There's no guess, for this, and I think most of you know that the most common method is jumping from heights. This is because HDB flats easily accessible. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it's easy to jump, right? It takes a lot of courage. Some people tried, they couldn't do it. Some people try to take sleeping pills or try to drink some alcohol so that they have the courage to jump. Yeah. Um, some seniors would say that they are not too keen to jump because they're afraid of not looking very nice. Yeah, so that's one of the deterrent from jumping because they say their body will look messed up, after they jump. Um, Interestingly, just an antidote, we have a client who was referred to us after he jumped. Um, but I think he's one of the very, very rare lucky people, so-called lucky people, because he didn't complete his suicide. I mean, his pants was hooked by a pole that stick out. So he was actually hanging on the pole for about an hour while the SCDF people tried to rescue him from the pole. And after that, he said he had some time to reflect, on his life, and he decided that no, he was not meant to die. So he didn't try to attempt again. So he's one of the lucky few ones, right? But usually jumping is very lethal. Yeah. And the next common method will be hanging, um, especially by the older male adults. Poisoning overdose is less frequent. If it's poisoning, it's still quite lethal, but if it's overdose with sleeping pills or Panadol, for example, then sometimes they might survive. Yeah. And sometimes suicide attempt could be a cry for help rather than, like they really want to they really want to kill themselves. But sometimes it still end up with them dead. Yeah. So yeah. So why knowing this is important? I think it's so that we know, like if we can find out from the person what are their plans, um, and you'll be surprised that those who are contemplating suicide, some of them are quite willing to share their plans with you. They even share their various research into the various methods. So, my colleagues and I have heard quite a number of different types of ways that the seniors are thinking of killing themselves. But the moment we know what kind of method they want, we could actually help to prevent, right? So for example, if they're thinking of jumping and if maybe they are on a wheelchair or something, we could make sure that the windows, the grills are locked, or if there's no grills, then maybe we can install grills in the windows. If they're thinking of using medication, then we could make sure that they don't have access to medication. We could keep the medications for them and give them the medication ourselves rather than, letting them um, take the medication themselves, right? And that might help to reduce impulsive attempts. And then there are families who, once they realize that the person is suicidal, they will keep things like bleachers, anything that they could ingest and could kill the seniors. Yeah. So, and we also know that if the person is thinking of things like hanging or jumping, then the more lethal it is, that means the more serious their intentions are, right? And then, of course, after we know, we could actually try to increase their support system, like mental health outreach, befriending program helplines. We could introduce this to help the seniors. Yeah, I'll talk more about interventions later. So going back to Madam Lim's case, So what happens afterwards was that the tragedy led the local active aging center to review how volunteers were trained. Befrienders were taught to recognize warning signs of suicide, such as withdrawal, giving away belongings, or speaking about death. And then more seniors in the neighborhood were proactively linked with dialect-speaking volunteers and mental health support hotlines like SOS and Wineline. Right? Okay, so what are some of the common risk factors for elderly suicide in Singapore? We have social isolation, loneliness. This is the first thing that's most like on the high on the list, right? Living alone, being estranged from family, having very limited social contact, right? Many seniors feel left behind when their children are busy or distant. A lot of children these days don't live with their seniors, so a lot of times the seniors is either living alone if they are widowed or divorced or single. Um, and a lot of seniors also live as couples, you know. And then a lot of families also, their children may have migrated overseas. So the seniors will feel quite lonely, when they don't have a lot of contact with their children. And sometimes, even if the children are in Singapore or or close by, sometimes they don't visit very often. Yeah. So if they also loses their spouse or close friends, that could amplify loneliness. Yeah, especially for introverts who don't really like to go out and mix around with others. They prefer to stay at home. And that could be very let me say it could increase their despair over time. Yeah. So if possible, oftentimes I would tell adult children, like, don't forget about your parents, make sure you visit them regularly. Like if you can visit them once a month, make sure you visit them every month so that they know that they're not being abandoned. They're still important in your life. Yeah. Um, then the second common risk factor will be chronic illness and physical decline, right? Conditions like diabetes, cancer, stroke, arthritis, heart condition, COPD, those that limits mobility, when you're not able to go out by yourself and you need to depend on somebody to bring you out. Yeah, that could give the person the sense of being a burden, right? Um, and then if some people have been diagnosed with dementia, then they may also fear further deterioration. And there will be those with terminal illness with poor prognosis, and maybe some of the prognosis could include a lot of pain, and then that could be very frightening for all of us, right? It's not just seniors. Yeah. So a lot of my seniors that I meet with suicidal ideation have really poor physical health condition. They are also usually people who are very socially isolated. Yeah, these are the two main common risk factors. Subsequently, mental health conditions is also another important thing. Like depression is the most common psychiatric diagnosis in elderly suicides, and very often it's undiagnosed, right? What's the reason for being undiagnosed? Because sometimes they don't show as the normal symptoms like low mood and poor interest, or sometimes, the children or family members are just not very aware that the senior has depression. They just think, oh, this person is old, he's old people are tired. It's very normal, so they don't want to go out, they don't want to talk, and that's normal. But actually, some of it could be signs of depression. And when a person has depression, then sometimes the brain chemistry is also affected, and then the suicidal thought may come along with the depression, right? It's part of depression. So, for example, there's a study in 2007 whereby they asked about 80 depressed seniors, and they found that more than half of depressed seniors have suicidal ideation. And suicidal ideation is very common in those who are severely depressed. And of and suicidal ideation is also 3 times more common in males older adults than female older adults. Yeah. Anxiety, insomnia, and late life psychosis can also play a role. I have clients who tell me that they hear voices asking them to kill themselves. Yeah. But sometimes they're able to cope with it. They will say, oh no, this is just a voice in my head. I don't believe in this voice, and then they are able to cope. Yeah. There is still some level of stigma in Singapore that stops older adults from seeking psychiatric help, especially if they have depression. A lot of seniors, they will say, oh, I'm not siao, don't need to go siao lang king. Um, yeah, actually, this is something that we may have to psychoeducate seniors to say that, okay, one thing is you may not need to necessarily bring them to IMH, but you can go and bring them to other hospitals with psychiatric units. The doctors can still prescribe psychiatric medication that could help the seniors. Yeah, and then you could, sometimes the condition is temporary, like with some medication, with some psychotherapy, the depression can be uplifted. They come in cycles, right? That the episodes of depression doesn't mean that it's going to be there forever. Yeah. In fact, one of the symptoms that could result in depressed mood is like when you have hypothyroid in seniors. So, so actually, my dad was showing some symptoms of depression a few years ago. And then when he went to see the doctor said, oh, actually, you don't have enough thyroid hormones. And then when the thyroid hormones is prescribed, then my dad's symptoms are lifted, no longer depressed. So sometimes it could be due to easily resolved medical issues. Yeah. So it's good if you notice some symptoms in seniors to bring them to seek some help. Perceived burden to family, yeah, this is also very, very common. Okay, being in the Asian traditional culture, such as Singapore, that emphasize so much on productivity, on effectiveness, on efficiency. It seems like our self-worth is being defined by our ability to contribute, ability to be of value, to the family, to the society. And as such, when people get older and they find that they're not able to contribute as much, they can't, they are not working anymore, not bring in the money for the family. Maybe they are not able to do the household chores as much as they can used to do. Yeah, then they find, and then if they suddenly become ill and require a helper to, attend to their needs, if they become ADL dependent on the helper or their children, then they will say, I don't want to become a burden. We are not used to depending on people. We are not used to asking people for help. So actually, I think, to prepare ourselves, right, as we are getting older, every one of us should learn to ask for help. Learn to feel okay to have thick skin if we get rejected, and to increase our network of resources, like, really make friends, especially younger friends, and don't be afraid to ask, if A say no, then ask B. Yeah, I have seniors who says that sometimes their children are very busy and they show a black face if they ask them certain questions, especially about the phone, right? How to do this, how to do that. So they say, if I have phone problems, I'll go and go and find the digital ambassadors at the CC. They are more helpful than my children are. Yeah. So of course we don't want to become a society whereby, children are dismissive towards seniors' needs. But then as we become older, we really, it's helpful for us to have different types of resources that we can turn to. Yeah. But if this person is all alone, homebound due to poor health, and then the children are not happy looking after them, then that could bring about deep shame, despair, and a sense of uselessness. Right? Okay, then of course, what makes it worse is when there is conflict at home, right? There could be intergenerational conflict, estrangement, neglect, there could be those domestic tension, between spouses or between the senior and the children. So that could make the senior feel unwanted at home. Yeah. And then financial stress, yes, for some, inadequate savings, medical bills, unemployment after retirement can cause distress. And even seniors with sufficient financial support may also feel anxious about dependency, right? Um, I have um, I have a few clients. Whenever it comes to, and then they're on financial assistance, right, with the SSO, the Social Service Office. And then their financial assistance is not for life, right? They need to renew it every 3 months or 6 months. And every time there's this new renewal process comes about, some of my seniors will become very suicidal. They will, they really dread the process of having to apply, having to repeatedly show the bank account, repeatedly share their stories with different officers, and then sometimes may face the anxiety of not having the financial assistance approved. Yeah. So that could also cause some stress there. Yeah. And then of course loss and grief. Right? A lot of people find it hard to deal with, if their spouse die, for example, or if they have lifelong friends and passes away, or sometimes it could even be their children, 白发人送黑发人, right? So that is actually very sad. And then, sometimes after retirement, they will experience the loss of social role, loss of their identity as the breadwinner, and then they would say, I'm no longer useful, So, and yeah, this is very common. Often with males is with after retirement loss of job, right? And for females is the inability to do household chores. Yeah. So to summarize, right, if we ask them why do you want to kill themselves? Why do you want to kill yourself, right? A lot of times they say it's so that I can end or stop the pain. And the pain could be physical pain or emotional pain. Some of them is because they have very little control on how they live, right? And then to them, if they can decide when to die and how they die, it's to give them some level of control, in life. Yeah. So this is the last bit or last area in their life that they have control over, for example. For some, it could be to get attention, to have revenge, or to get a reaction from others. But this is not as common in seniors as compared to the first two, right? The first one is actually the most common. Okay. Warning signs of suicide risk in seniors. So there could be verbal or written cues, expressing hopelessness, worthlessness, or guilt. I'm a burden, life is meaningless. They can talk or joke about wanting to die, disappear, or end it all, making statements like, I won't be needing this anymore, or giving away belongings, leaving farewell notes or messages indicating intent, right? Um, for behavioral changes, they could withdraw from social activities or hobbies they once enjoyed. They may avoid contact with their families, friends, volunteers. Some of them may start neglecting their personal hygiene or medical care, like stop going to see the doctor, stop taking medicine, stop eating properly. There could be sudden preoccupation with death, including reading or talking about it frequently. There could be increased substance use, such as alcohol misuse, is to numb themselves, to numb their pain. In fact, it could be one of the coping mechanism that stops them from killing themselves. Like if they manage to numb themselves enough of the pain, then they don't need to kill themselves. Then preparative actions such as giving away prized possessions, arranging affairs such as financial documents, funeral instructions, searching online or acquiring means of suicide. And then the fourth one is actually quite surprising, especially for people who are depressed, right? Suddenly you would see that their mood seems to be getting better, They're suddenly more calm, they're more composed, you know. They may say goodbye or make unusual visits or calls. They will start tying up loose ends, such as making apologies or showing gratitude. Um, they may not respond to see you again, Yeah. but they may say, oh, thank you so much for spending time with me. Thank you so much for listening to me, you know. And then if you say, see you again next time, they say, well, I'm not sure I'll see you again, but, you know, thank you so much, you know, they may say that. And why this sudden calmness and composure is because sometimes when you're struggling, right, should I kill myself or should I live? Um, it really drains a person to have to decide, you know, which way do I go? So the moment they come to a fixed decision, they're very confirmed, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm sure now, you know, I'm sure I'm going to take my life. But then suddenly it gives them some sense of relief, you know. There could be some kind of calmness, some kind of relief, some kind of joy. And then, you know, they just go about like, okay, I have control again, you know, I know what I'm going to do. Yeah. So, um, and also sometimes they may want to mask their distress so that the caregivers they will kind of not be so attentive. Like you say, oh, she seems to be getting better. Okay, I better get back to, you know, what I need to do with my life. You know, so the caregiver may then not visit them so often and things like that. Yeah. So actually this is quite an important thing to take note of. Yeah. Not to lose the vigilance, even if, you know, the person suddenly has this expression. Okay, so for Madam Lim's case, right? I'm not sure. What would you consider suicide risk factors, and what would you consider subtle warning signs? I don't know if you remember. Yeah, so give you some time to maybe put in a chat. I mean, risk factors are like what predisposes the person, right? I don't know if you recall, the first two will be loneliness and chronic health conditions. So for Madam Lim, yeah, she has social isolation and loneliness despite having family. She has health decline, chronic illness, dementia, and pain. She also have perceived burden on her children, and then there's also grief and loss of her husband, right? And then the subtle warning signs include withdrawal from community activities, avoiding contact with her children, giving away her prized sewing machine, and then saying she wants to disappear to the befriender. Right. Okay, so yeah, this is no joke. I think everybody knows this, right? Singapore's aging society. In another 5 years' time, 25% of population will be 65 years and above, right? One in four people. Um, Life expectancy is 84 years. But health span, right? That is lifespan. Lifespan is 84 or more, but health span will be 74. So there will be like more years in bad health or disabilities, right? In 5 years' time, 10% of seniors will be living both with both chronic and mental um, illnesses. 10% will be living with dementia, 10% will be living alone, and 40% will be living with an equally aged spouse, right? So these are the facts that and it's not too far away, it's 5 years' time that we're facing, right? Um, so yeah, so going forward is like, how can we prevent suicide, right? How can we um like reach out to somebody who may have suicidal ideation? How do we talk about suicide directly and kindly, right? So if you are a caregiver to seniors at home or your nursing home staff, you know, there might come a time where you have to do this. You might have to ask about it directly and kindly. You need to create a space for their dignity and for active listening. Make sure that other people are not listening, because otherwise it will be very difficult for the person to talk about, like if you're still in the ward, right, with other people in the next bed, then it will be difficult for the senior to talk about it. So you may have to bring them to a isolated room, for example, right? And then make sure if you're at home, monitor their medication, monitor their moods, monitor their habits, notice if there are any changes in the way they live their life. And if possible, encourage participation in activities. So some nursing homes do have volunteers come, organize activities, encourage the residents to participate. If your seniors have certain hobbies and you can allow them to do it in the home or at the family home, please encourage them to continue to do the hobbies that still bring them joy. And inclusion, yeah. Make sure you ask everyone in the nursing home, or like in a family where there are seniors, right? A lot of times the seniors don't want to be a burden to their children. Then they will say, oh, no, no, I stay at home. Don't need to go. If I go, I'll slow you down. So if you want to include them, right, make sure you plan activities that are senior friendly, right? Maybe have only like a 2-hour outing so that, they go out, they come back, they can still rest. Plan the outing at places whereby it's wheelchair friendly, lots of toilets, food that the senior likes to eat. Yeah. Um, yeah, so keep telling them that they mean a lot to you in the family, or if you're working in a nursing home, sometimes I know nursing home staff are very, very busy, right? But then sometimes if you go past a senior, a patient, you could just smile and, just bring a smile to their face, or say, oh, your smile makes my day, Yeah, that is some kind of inclusion, right? And then, of course, it's very important for us to recognize when we are overtired, right? When we're burnt out from caregiving. And because if we are burnt out, then the way we talk to our seniors may also not be very kind. We could be very impatient and rude, and the seniors may take it very badly, and then it will increase the impression like, oh, I'm such a burden, I'm causing this distress to my daughter or my son, or to the staff in the nursing home, they're so tired of changing my diapers all the time, So if I die, then I will create less a burden for them, right? Yeah. So about how to ask or talk about suicide directly and kindly, it's important to prepare yourself mentally, right? You need to be calm. You need to be comfortable as well with the topic, If you become agitated or very shocked or very judgmental, the seniors will shut down. They will say, oh, this person doesn't like me to share this, and they will not talk about it. They will just say, ah, joking only lah, They'll try to brush it off. So you need to be very calm. You need to be very accepting of whatever they say, non-judgmental. So avoid showing shock, fear, or disapproval. Sometimes it's not easy. So which means that sometimes you may have to practice it with your colleague or another family member or with a friend. Do it a few times until you really feel very comfortable talking to somebody about the topic, right? Of course, you need to ensure safety. If you suspect immediate risk, you have to follow the protocols in the nursing home. For example, like don't leave the senior alone, alert the supervisor, alert the medical staff. Yeah. So basically, don't hold any of this information on your own if you can. Okay. If you know about somebody who is suicidal, try to get other people involved as well, so that you're not the only one holding the this burden. I mean, it is a burden, yeah. Yeah, choose the right setting. So if you want to talk to the senior about it, find somewhere that's private and quiet. Make sure there's no interruptions. Make sure that there's confidentiality, because sometimes it's not easy for them to talk about it. They may feel very ashamed even to have those thoughts. So if you make sure that they are alone with you, and nobody else is listening in, I mean, like no other patients like the nursing home is listening in, that will help them to, express themselves to you. Of course, the environment must be comfortable, sitting at eye level in a familiar space, and then make sure you have adequate time. So don't rush, don't do it before you have to do something else, Ensure that they feel you have a lot of time for them. There's enough time for them to talk. Yeah, they don't feel pressured. Um, Use direct but gentle language, right? Okay, avoid vague questions. If you ask things like, "Oh, are you thinking of going somewhere?" Then it's very vague, right? You mean go where? Go where? I'm here, right? I'm in the nursing home. Where can I go? Yeah. So you may have to use the words directly, like for some examples. I've noticed you've seemed very down lately. Are you thinking about ending your life? You know, Sometimes when people feel like you do, they may have thoughts about suicide. Are you having any of these thoughts? I'm concerned about your safety. Have you thought about hurting yourself or killing yourself? Right? So you must be comfortable, using the word ending your life, killing yourself, or suicide. Um, it is also a myth to think that if the person don't have suicidal thought and you introduce the topic, they will start to think about suicide. That's not true, okay? A person who doesn't have suicidal thoughts will tell you, no lah, I don't lah. I'm sad lah, but I'm not going to take my life. My life is too precious. I don't think like this. They will tell you directly, and then of course you can apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry, I misunderstand, But maybe you can tell me about why you seem so down lately, right? You can still continue to care for them, even if they are not, even if they say they're not thinking of killing themselves. But if they really am thinking of that, most of the time, I say not all the time, but most of the time they're relieved that they can talk about it with somebody, right? There could be times whereby they don't want to tell you because some of them may be very serious about wanting to do it, and then they don't want people to stop them. So there are times whereby it could be that, they seriously have the thoughts, but they want to carry it out, then they don't want anyone to know. Yeah, so these are the very high risk ones. Um, so anyway, I mean, the most important thing is we try, okay? May not always be successful, but at least if we try, then we can't say we didn't try, right? Yeah, so there's a script here that you can use, like, hello, Mr. Tan, I've noticed you've been feeling very low lately. Sometimes when people feel like this, they might think about ending their life. I want to check with you. Have you had thoughts of wanting to hurt or kill yourself? It's okay to be honest. I'm here to help you, and really mean it when you say it. So you might want to practice this a few times with your colleagues, if you're working in a nursing home or other agencies. Yeah. So, when you listen to them, maintain eye contact, not to show understanding, reflect back what they say. Like it sounds like you feel very lonely and overwhelmed, right? Basically, empathy is so important, right? We hear about, people talk about it. It's important to acknowledge how they feel and don't try to fix anything immediately because some things cannot be fixed. Like if their spouse has passed away and they say they miss their wife, then you say, oh wow, sounds like you know her passing away makes you feel very lonely and you really miss her a lot. Sounds like you have a very good relationship with your wife. Would you like to tell me more? So get them to talk about their wife, for example. Yeah, maybe the good times and it will come out. And they would appreciate somebody care enough to want to know, right? Avoid minimizing or dismissing feelings. Don't say, oh, things will get better soon, or there's a cure for dementia. Okay, it's not true. There's no cure for dementia. Or when you are in severe dementia, you won't know anything anyway, don't say things like that. Or some of us will try to be helpful. We say, oh no, some people are in the worst situation than you. It's like it's not a competition, right? If we feel bad, we feel bad. Whether or not somebody else is in a worse situation than us, it doesn't matter. We still feel the way we do. So the important thing is to empathize, you know, really be there. Don't be in a rush to go away. Don't be in a rush to run away from their um such emotions, right? And then, of course, if there is immediate intent or plan, you may have to treat it as emergency. You may have to call SOS to find out what happened. The number now is 1767 and they're available 24/7. And also the new National Mental Health Helpline is 1771 line is also available 24/7. If you know that they're in immediate danger, right, it's good to bring the senior to the nearest A&E, right? Or you tell them, I'm really concerned about your safety. I want you to be well. I want you to live. I want you to be better. Would you come with me? And if they really don't want to come with you, you can't move them or whatever, you may have to dial 999 actually. Because the police can enforce involuntary admission to IMH under the Mental Health Act. Yeah. If you dial 995, the ambulance can come, but then the paramedics don't have the ability or the power to enforce involuntary admission, so they may still have to call the police. Yeah, and I think maybe you need to call 995 if the person is bedridden, for example, right? Yeah, you're not able to bring on your own, for example. Yeah. Um, and the interesting thing about calling the police, it doesn't mean that the person needs to be actively in a suicidal state for the police to intervene. If you're able to share the person's intent, like for example, the person say, okay, next month during my birthday, I'm going to, jump from the 15th floor of this particular block. They're very specific with their plans, right? The person can be very calm while telling you, but the police can still escort them to IMH. If after they assess them, they know that this person is high risk, they can still escort them. Yeah. Then it's up to IMH psychiatrists to assess the risk and to provide the necessary treatment for this person. Yeah. Then, of course, if it's very urgent, you need to alert your supervisors or other healthcare professionals. You need to ensure physical safety, do not leave the senior alone. You may have to collaborate on safety planning, remove immediate means of self-harm if possible, and then work with family members only if it's appropriate to help the senior. You must have family members who cares enough and whom you can work with, right? We don't want family members who come and then start to scold the elderly, for causing trouble, because then that will increase their sense of distress and alienation, right? Yeah, then you could offer support, you could normalize seeking help. You say many seniors feel like this at times and help is available. It's okay to seek help. You can ask about their protective factors or lifelines. You can ask the question like, what has kept you alive so far? What is it? What is holding you back from killing yourself? For some people, it could be certain family members. They don't want some people to be sad in their life. They don't want the parents to be sad. They don't want their children to be sad. Some could be their lifeline could be like their pets. I still need to take care of my cats. I still need to take care of my dogs. Without me, right? They will not be, well taken care of. And for some others, it will be their religion, right? If I kill myself, then I wouldn't see God, for example. I wouldn't go to heaven, and things so on and so forth, right? And then you can explain what are the other options that they have. Maybe they can see the social worker, they can see counselors, they can have befriending programs, or they can go through a medical review, right? Yeah. Further tips for nursing home staff and caregivers. Now just remember about cultural sensitivity. So some seniors may feel ashamed about expressing suicidal thoughts. Use gentle, respectful phrasing in their dialect, preferably in the dialect, and language can help. You may have to follow your institutional protocols. So most nursing homes have suicide response plans, and staff should be trained to escalate concerns immediately, right? And then don't forget to document your interactions, record what the seniors say and your response for the continuity of care, and that's important, right? Yeah, so in the community, within the family, what can you do? We can show care and appreciation, and this applies for everyone, everyone if you see a senior along the streets or something, then maybe you can smile and pause, spend some time with them. I mean, yeah. Um, uh, Only if it's appropriate, of course. And then if you have seniors in your family, make sure you visit them regularly. Regularly is actually very good. At least they can count on you coming. Like if they have some certain needs that they want a younger person to help them with, right? They will say, oh, this person is coming every first Sunday of the month, and I can wait for this person to come, and then this person can help me, you know? Yeah. If the senior is single, no family members, then you could, arrange them to be visited by volunteers. Um, and you yourself can also join volunteer buddy programs and visit seniors. OJOY has a program called Para Counseling Program that our volunteers will visit seniors once every fortnight and once every month just to keep them company, right? And then, it's important to celebrate life milestones. You can celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, or any small joys. Like sometimes the CDC, we receive the CDC voucher from the government, we can say, oh, let's go and splurge and spend on something to eat, right? We can treat ourselves to something nice, right? Intergenerational programs are actually very important. I think a lot of seniors, they really appreciate, interacting with the younger generation. There's the energy from the youth or the cuteness of the young kids. Yeah, later I'll show you some photos of the programs that we have in OJOY. Advocacy is very important. Like for example, is there manpower issue in the nursing home? Is there too many staff and not enough, like break, and are the staff all like, overworked, and then they don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to actually attend to the seniors' emotional needs, psychological needs, because I think for them, you have to make sure that they attend to all their physical needs first, and that comes first, right? So sometimes we can also push for policy changes, to have increased funding, increased staff training, and so on. Yeah, so these are all the things that we can do. Each one of us can think about what we can do for our community. Now I'm going to some practical suicide intervention strategies using one real life case example. So story of Mr. Lee, not his real name and not his photo. He's 80 years old, married with one adult son, who is married and living apart with his own family. Right. So Mr. Lee has been staying with his wife and helper before getting a stroke, and then he was subsequently admitted to a nursing home. While in the nursing home, the staff noticed that he has low mood, he has suicidal ideation, and even one suicidal attempt since the end of 2023. And the nursing home referred Mr. Lee to OJOY for counseling, right, in the beginning of 2024. The reasons for his low mood and being suicidal, he really missed his family, right? From staying at home with his wife to going to nursing home, he can't see his wife and he really misses his wife, right? And then because of his physical and functional decline, he has one side immobile due to the stroke, and he requires the assistance for daily living from the nursing home staff. Um, and it's you know like when you need somebody to change diapers for you or to shower you, there's also the dignity issue, right? It's not easy for somebody to adjust to that. And the people who are assisting you are all strangers, right? So there's some getting used to. And then plus the stroke also affected his speech. So his speech becomes a bit blurred and slurred. And then it requires a lot of patience from the listener if he wants to communicate something, right? And then he was also feeling very useless. He can't do anything for himself. He can't do anything for other people. And then he feels like a burden to his family, right? Especially when the wife and son couldn't visit him very often, right? He feels abandoned by them, right? So he has all these very strong feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, nothing to look forward to. And then he think, oh, I'll be in the nursing home until I die, which is kind of the truth, lah, right? So for him, right? Suicide actually will release him from the pain that he's feeling, and from thinking that he's a burden to others. Yeah, so suicide is a choice, right, for him. When the OJOY counselor went in, my colleague, she visits Mr. Lee regularly and spend time listening to him and validating him. speaks to him in his native dialect, which is Teochew, it allowed Mr. Lee to express himself more naturally and easily. And then she was also very patient with Mr. Lee as he speaks with a slur. What she does is she helps him to focus on what is still useful, right? For example, he can't use his right hand, but his left hand, he can still move his left hand, right? He can still see things. He can read the newspapers. He can still hear, although he can't speak very well, but he can still hear. He can eat on his own. He trained himself to eat with his left hand. And then he can still sing, even though, it's slur, right? But, the sound, he can still make the music, something that he enjoyed. Yeah. And also, the Ojai counselor focuses on Mr. Lee as a person. So basically, she asks a lot of things like what was he like in the past? What does he used to do? How does he contribute to the society? How did he contribute to his family? What he's proud of? He likes to play an instrument. I think it's a harmonica, I think. And then what he likes oldies, right? So through all this, right, taking time to know the person as a person, right? Not just who he is right now, but like throughout his whole life, how is he like? It really helps Mr. Lee to ignite his appreciation of himself, his self-worth and value. So despite his condition and situation, he recognizes that he's still, of value, of what he has done for the past few years of his life, right? Also, the counselor will work with the medical social worker of the nursing home regarding his bed location because he was located in one corner and then there was only one other a patient, so they try to move him to a ward with more beds and more patients. And then also work with his family, like request for video calls with his wife and more regular visits by the son. But one thing that was very helpful for Mr. Lee, and which the nursing home was very helpful in also doing this for him, is to actually push him because he's on a wheelchair, right? They will push him around and put the newspaper on his lap, and then he will be the one delivering the newspaper to other residents in the nursing home, you know? So he has this daily duty of newspaper delivery, which makes him feel like, oh, I can contribute, I'm still very useful. So that really helps him, right? Also, another thing is that the counselor engaged Mr. Lee in his spiritual beliefs, right? Mr. Lee finds much comfort and strength in his faith and strong belief in Guan Yin. So it's also a protective factor for him whenever he feels like killing himself again. He will remind himself that the life is not in his own hands and the Guan Yin will come for him when it's time. So faith can be a very important protective factor for seniors, right? So what is the impact then of the interventions of Mr. Lee? So he eventually adapted to staying in the nursing home. He viewed the nursing home staff as his friends. It helps him to have some form of social interaction. Um, he accepted that his wife and son did not abandon him. His son will visit him as much as possible. His wife did not visit him as often because of her own poor health, right? And then Mr. Lee has a strengthened sense of identity and purpose when connecting with his past achievements as compared to the initial feelings of loss, right? And when the counselor reminded him of the songs that he knew and he loved, and then he started singing the songs again, that also enhanced his cognitive function and helps to bring some joy to him, right? And it doesn't mean that he doesn't think about suicide. He will still occasionally talk about it, especially when he feels down, right? But then he will quickly turn into his spiritual realm. He will do his chanting, and then he would think that, if I kill myself, my family will be sad, and then I will, also, it will not be nice for the workers in the nursing home who is, doing their best to take care of him. Yeah. So he also, is able to think about all this. Yeah. So some of the very strong protective factors for seniors is strong social connectedness, right? Feeling connected to family, friends, neighbors, community helps to counter social isolation. There's a sense of purpose, self-esteem, and coping abilities, like protective interpersonal factors such as a purpose in life, self-efficacy, resilience, hope, self-esteem, quality of life, and coping strategies. All these are pivotal in reducing suicidal ideation among older adults, right? So we want to focus on what the seniors can still do for us at home, for example. You know, like if you are employing a helper to reduce the stress for your mother, for example, you could still get your mom to maybe like supervise the helper, like teach her some recipes, so that there's still a function, there's still a role, something that she can still do quite comfortably, you know. Um, what else? I think it's very important for all of us, like if we, if our parents are still alive, right? It's very important to remember to appreciate them for every little thing that they're doing, for themselves or for us. Like if they're taking medication by themselves and, taking care of their appointments by themselves, we can appreciate them for that. And then we could also offer help to them, rather than wait for them to ask us for help. We can say, oh, is there something I can do for you? What would you like to do? Can I spend some time with you? Can you tell me about the past? Oh, I didn't know anything about this. Now that you tell me, I've actually learned so much from you. So this is very helpful for the seniors to feel like, oh, I can still share something useful for the younger generation. Yeah. So then, of course, having religious and spiritual beliefs and strong cultural identity offers emotional anchoring, discourages suicide. I have one senior who is late 80s, almost 90 years old. She has depression, dementia. Um, the eyesight is really very poor, and she was quite hard of hearing actually. Um, but she's still like directing her helper what to do at home, and she's still being like the main main person in the family, keeping the family together. So, for example, she will call all her children, right? Her four daughters, her two sons, and then don't know how many grandchildren. She'll call them, take turns and call them. And even though she can't hear very well, right? But she'll make sure that she shares something with them or she asks how they are doing. So they consider her as the matriarch of the family, right? So she still has a very strong role in the family. Yeah, so that helps. That helps. Okay. Um, Now for the last bits, right, about training and support resources. Um, what might be helpful for some of us here? I just want to showcase this document. It's called the Safety Protocol with CSSRS. Uh, it's actually a very good suicide risk protocol that the program called CRESS is using. CRESS stands for Community Resource Engagement and Support Team. There are lots of CRESS in Singapore. And then we are tasked to look into the mental health of seniors and adults and also youths. And we use this particular protocol to help us to assess the suicide risk, right? So you can actually go onto the link and download the document to take a look if you need one for your organization. But you may have to cater it to the Singapore context as well as to your organizational context. Um, and then if you are like social workers, counselors, please get yourself trained in suicide assessment and intervention. SOS has a very good course. This course is, I think, 4 days, and they do it very often. So you look at the dates, right? It's very, very frequent dates. You can start by going for this course first, right? It's very important because um, it is very, very common for us to run into people with suicidal ideation, especially if we're working in the social service area. Yeah, and then for anyone else, I also learned that Caring for Life has a training, a 4-hour half-day program to help participants identify signs of suicidal thoughts and, engage individuals who may be struggling. So this can be open to, care staff of any organization, I think, and also for the general public, for volunteers. So please go and, um, really familiarize yourself with the topic and the conversation. Be very familiar with talking about it very, very calmly and kindly, right? Yeah. Um, Then if you are caregiver for seniors at home, or yourself, you may have senior-related concerns, you can reach out to the following agencies. Ojoy is where I'm from. We're located at Kallang. Huami is located at Tiong Bahru. Sage is at Jurong. And then the Sage also run a senior helpline. Then the Care Corner, they are located at Toa Payoh. So you can approach these various counseling centers for help also regarding seniors related issues. And then last but not least, I want to show you some of the activities that Ojoy is doing for the community to really help the seniors in our, around us, to improve their physical, mental, emotional well-being. So one of it will be we do a lot of reminiscence group work. You can see that this is a room in the Active Aging Center, and Ojoy has been asked to run this group work for the seniors, the participants of the AAC. And you can see on the table there are many photos of Singapore from the past. And what it does is that we ask the seniors to go through the photos to see what is familiar to them, and then they talk about a time in the past which means something to them, could be good memories of the past, right? Yeah. So usually such session can generate a lot of joy from the seniors when they remember, the good old times. Some people say, why does the senior always talk about the past? But it's understandable, right? Given that they are towards the end of their life. The past is the main part of their life, right? That's what holds the most meaning for them. So if they can remember what they are like in the past, what are the things they become more solid as a person, so they don't just look at this moment in time that they're old, they are useless, they are, needing help from people. They will look back and say, oh, I have been this strong person. I used to bring up the children. I got 6 or 7 children. I managed to bring them up. They will generate a sense of pride in who they are. So this activity is actually very helpful, for seniors. And then we also have arts and crafts, Yeah, so these are some of our seniors who enjoy doing arts and crafts. We do this on a weekly basis. Yeah. Um, and then we also have intergenerational programs. So this one, we have a mixture of people from the university and as well as from JC. Yeah. Yeah. So you can see the energy from the youths are very contagious. You can see a lot of smiles in the seniors when they are, interacting with the young people. Yeah. And then here we have the seniors interacting with the childcare students from the childcare. Yeah, so which also brings them a lot of joy. Yeah. Okay. And then last but not least, dance and music are actually very, very helpful, for seniors. Um, I don't know. Let me try to play this. Yeah, so actually, this dance and music therapy, we actually have it every Monday at the CC nearby for our seniors. Although what I'm showing you is a video of a session for our para counselors, our volunteers. So you can see also a lot of our volunteers are seniors as well. Yeah, but it's actually a very, very popular, well-loved program. Yeah. Okay. Okay, So I've come to the end of my talk. Before we go to the Q&A section, right? There's actually a QR code for you. If you could provide feedback for the talk, I could also, and you leave your email address in the feedback form, I will send you the slides of today's talk. Yeah. So I'll give you some time to do the feedback. It's only 4 questions. So guess it's okay. We can go on to the Q&A.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So great job, everybody, for listening to the talk. Some of the things may not be so easy to hear. Yeah, I'm going to stop share.
Mm. Just a big thank you to you, Dr. Chu, right, for this whole sharing. I think all of us share very similar sentiments that to see so much good work that's done for the seniors.
Okay.
Just before I ask my question, let me just ask a quick question from the Zoom side. How do we help to sign them up for the programs? Are there any charges for Old Joy on the counseling side as well?
Counseling, we don't charge for PG living in HDB, but there are charges for those staying in private. Yeah. We have a sliding scale of charges actually. And then if you're working, it will depend on your working salary, your income range, you know. So sometimes it's good if you are not sure, you just call in to make inquiry, and then the intake counselor will tell you what are the charges for counseling. Then for the activities, right, you can just come. It's open to anyone living around Kallang area. Of course, we also have people come from further away, lah. But then, it depends on whether the senior is willing to travel the distance or not. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
Okay.
those are free.
Hmm.
Those are free.
Someone asked, how about those in nursing home?
Oh, I wouldn't know,
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think nursing home activities, if they are meant by volunteers, is probably free, right? And you're already paying the
Mhm,
fees for staying in the nursing home. So
mhm.
so I don't think lah. But of course I cannot answer for nursing homes.
Yeah. Uh, for those of them who are interested to look up more about nursing home, actually, they are quite easily searchable on Google, and there
Mm.
are various websites out there for us for the numbers for them to contact. There seems to be some issue with the QR code.
Oh,
Some of
okay.
them says that access is required for the QR code form. Just wondering if there's anyone who can assist you on this on your side.
Oh. Hmm. I don't know what kind of access
Uh,
because when I
no,
tested
yeah.
myself, there's no access
Uh,
required, but maybe because I'm
yeah.
the one who creates the phone.
No worries. If there's someone who can assist you, you can just send us the link.
Maybe
So
maybe
yeah.
what what
Mm.
what y'all can do is maybe just send email to my email address,
Mhm.
and then I will share the slides and the feedback with you.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
how do I just type in my email, okay?
yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So for those of you who,
Yaping
yeah,
at ojoy.org.
yeah. So for those of you who are interested to have access to her slides and also her QR code for the feedback,
Mm.
feel free to write into Yaping, Dr. Chu, and I'm sure she'll be able to assist. Now,
Yeah.
just for me, right, this topic is so important for us because for Caring for Life, we had a chance to work with some of the senior centers as well, and
Mm.
many of times, first of all, thank you for promoting our program. We also run this suicide prevention program even for befrienders, and many of them are seniors as well.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm most so heartened to know is that our oldest participant who's willing to learn about suicide prevention skill to
Mhm.
support their other senior friend is
Mhm.
86 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and when we ask her, why do you want to learn this? She said because it's useful for her when she befriend other seniors.
Right.
And I was, oh my gosh, when I heard that, I was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Applaud her courage, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I guess I have one question for you, and then after that, I'll start reading off the question from the Zoom chat. So for any
Okay.
of you who have questions for her, feel free to keep on posting, and we'll try to read off from there.
Right.
Maybe I guess a question for you, Dr. Chu, is that there has been a few also research study that seem to suggest that seniors doesn't like to talk about the topic of death,
Mm.
right? But at
Mm.
the same time, if for those seniors who are suicidal at the same time, they may not show it as well, right? Maybe not in
Mm.
a vocal sense. So, are there any
Mm.
telltale signs that you think you can educate us in other than the verbal part that suggest that something is wrong and we really need to check in?
Yeah, so like I said, if they show like they are very depressed, very withdrawn,
Mhm.
when you talk to them, they are, not as talkative as they used to be. When you ask them to join activities and things like that, they say sian lah, don't want lah, not interested lah, And then you find that every day they are just not doing very much. Like maybe some people will just be watching TV all the time or sleeping all the time.
Mhm.
And they're not really taking very good care of themselves. Yeah. So then,
Mm.
then I will see it as a red flag, a lot of red flags there. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so now a question from Agnes. Um, she asks, is it possible to teach seniors on how to communicate effectively with their children? Sometimes children does not want to visit because their parents trigger them. Or is it possible to
Right.
teach the children how to manage their triggers?
I always tell my clients, the children, that it's easier for them to change than their parents to change.
Mm,
Although I don't deny that there are some seniors who are actually very willing to learn how to interact differently from their kids. So I think it really
mm,
depends on the personality, of the
mm,
person. Yeah, it's not so much the senior or the children per se. Yeah,
mm,
it's who wants to change more urgently.
mm.
Who wants to, yeah, who
Okay.
is more motivated, yes.
And also, if they want to find out more, they can write into you as well, to the
Yeah,
center for
yeah,
further
yeah,
advice.
yeah. If they
Mm,
have any concerns about how to talk to their parents or, how they would like their parents to talk to them. I mean, usually if the children are the one having the problems, then and if they're the ones who come to counselors, then we will try to help them to manage lah,
mhm,
how to respond to their parents. Yeah, because
mm,
it's very hard to kind of force parents to come for counseling. They will say, "What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with
mm,
me, or why do I need counseling?" They can be very hostile to the idea. Yeah.
mm. SAMH Angelica asks, how do
Mm.
we get the materials for reminiscence activities when number one, when we know the elderlies, or number two, when we don't know the elderlies and have to prepare the materials for a group of elderlies?
Yeah, so I think the ones that we have that we use in Odro actually come from CGH, the geriatric department. They kindly share their resources with us. Yeah, but I also know of some of our volunteers that they go online and they just download all the,
Hmm.
old Singapore photos. But if you know the senior themselves, right, then if they have photos, then their photos will be great resource.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so sometimes when we tell our volunteers who visit the elderly at their homes, just see lor, what's on the wall, what's on the table, do you see some photos? If it is, right, then maybe you can just very respectfully ask them, oh, is it
Hmm.
okay if I ask you about, what is this photo about? Who is in this photo,
Hmm.
and see whether they are comfortable to share with you. Yeah, some people can be
Hmm.
quite private, so they don't want to tell you very much, but sometimes after you go and visit them a few times, they will open up. Lah. Yeah.
Hmm. So while waiting for more questions to come in the Zoom
Mm-hmm.
chat, I just want to take this chance to ask a question that I've encountered myself. So I'm going to tap
Mm-hmm.
on your brain, okay?
Sure, sure,
Uh,
sure.
One time when I was conducting a talk for a group of seniors,
Uh-huh.
suicide prevention related topic,
Uh-huh.
it was a public talk lah, and
Right.
the average age of the participants was about 60 and above.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the senior actually asked me this, and I just want to hear how would you respond as well.
Right,
Is
right.
that this senior asked, a friend told me that if you jump from the high-rise building,
Uh-huh.
midway you'll lose conscious, and when you hit the floor, you won't feel any pain. Is that true? So that was asked in a public setting. So just want to check in on how would you respond to this?
Oh my goodness. Oh, now I really want to know. I want to ask the same question to the person who jumped and got hooked on the pants because I don't have
Mm,
the personal experience myself.
mm,
Yeah, I really don't know. Yeah.
yeah. I
But
mean,
but
yeah.
but but I guess
Mm,
the person who asked this probably is using this as a way to
yeah.
make it easier for them to jump, like
Yeah.
thinking that you will pass out, right? Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
I think this is also an important reminder for us as well, as we also need to listen to what they say, right? The conversation itself,
Mm.
and really detect any potential red flags also. Okay,
Mm.
so a question from Lisa. How do we convince seniors living in nursing homes that their lives still have meaning?
Yeah, it's a bit hard to convince actually. I
Mm,
think we need to lead them to share to the extent that, they are able to feel that their life still has meaning. Yeah, it is
mm,
through their sharing that we try to listen for little things that they may not notice. Yeah.
mm,
If it comes from us, right, it will feel a bit forceful and it may not be relevant to their life.
mhm,
Like if we tell the person, oh, you can still see, you can still hear or something like that. Depends. Yeah. Because I think
mm,
what my counselor did with the senior Mr. Lee, right? I think she asked, oh, what can you still do? So it actually
mm,
facilitate that person to come up with the answer themselves. Then it makes it's greater meaning to them if they are the
mhm,
one who owns the answer.
mhm.
Yeah.
So on that, right, I have a follow-up question from one of our attendees.
Mm.
The attendee asks, so for seniors who reject all form of activities and seem generally disinterested, how do we
Right.
then engage them?
Right. We need to find out why they reject all activities. Is it
Mm,
because they have no interest in those things? Like, they don't like to sing, they don't like Rami O, I don't know, like then we can ask them, oh, what do you actually like? You know?
mm,
I have the fortune of visiting somebody who goes to the hospice care in Outram Community Hospital.
mhm,
And over there, right, they have so many interesting activities that are not very common in active aging centers, actually.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I think they're very I mean, one thing is that they have the funding, lah, huh? You need money to do a lot of things, right? So they have like tea appreciation,
mm,
painting. Of course, painting some AAC will have, lah. They have like massage chairs,
mhm,
personalized haircut, nail salon.
mhm,
I
mhm,
mean, it's quite nice, lah, like if we can think of different kinds of things that maybe the person will like, you know. Some seniors I know they go to coffee shop and they just sit there drink kopi together, or they
mhm,
just hang the birds there and listen to the birds sing. Yeah.
mhm,
So it will take a lot of creativity to think of what are the things that will interest the person. Yeah.
mm,
And maybe they really don't like group activity. Then maybe you have to think of what other things that they don't mind doing one to one.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question for you. What if the senior is 90 plus and he thinks he's old enough and he feels he's a burden to the son? How would you
Mm.
attend to him?
Yeah, so we'll ask lah. We'll ask him how does he feel he's a burden to his son. He may
Mhm,
say that, I live so long, I'm so old, and I'm already in a nursing home. The nursing home fees are not cheap. My
mm,
son has to pay, and then he's not earning a lot. Like if I go, if I die, then he don't have to pay. He can use the money for his own children and things like that.
mhm,
Yeah. Then maybe I'll say, do you remember what you used to do for him when he's younger? Like
mhm,
like how do you bring him up? Things like that. Yeah. So maybe to help him realize that this is like a cycle
mhm,
whereby we take care of our children when they are young, and then when we are old, they take care of us. Like, then maybe it's like giving him the chance to show his filial piety,
mm,
so that his children can also learn how to be filial to him next time when he's old, right?
mm.
Yeah. So try lah, we try.
Yeah, we try. We really got to try. And that's the
Sometimes
word,
they,
right?
they will be
Yeah.
convinced by us.
I mean, that's the word, right? It's about the try and explore and
Mm.
really, hopefully, we find something that we can work on, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
clicks for them. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask one more question from the Zoom, and after that, I will open it up to the floor for people to
Uh-huh.
ask you live.
Okay,
But
sure.
for any of the attendees who's going to ask Dr. Chu questions, just a gentle reminder to exercise two things. One, that the respect for the speaker, and number two, to know that this is not for counseling or counseling session. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so this is a question from Ivy. I think because we had a lot of this whole topic around finding meaning or what else they can still do, right?
Mm. Mm.
So Ivy is asking, so is meaning the only thing the seniors are looking for? What else can we evoke more than just meaningful lives? Do life must have meaning before we can continue to live? Just thinking out loud. Hope to learn what else.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, but meaning can be a very generic term, isn't it? And it could
Mm,
mean different things to different people. Yeah.
mm,
For some elderly, right, meaning could just be like, today I got nice food, you know? Today
mm,
the lunch is this and I like to eat this and that gives meaning to my life and therefore they live day by day looking forward to what is the next meal that they're having, right?
mhm,
For some, it will just be maybe seeing their child, you know,
mhm,
like the
mhm,
child visits every month, then the meaning is like, oh, I get to see my child and I get to, hear from him how he's doing. Yeah. And then for
mm,
some will be maybe more introverted, like more turned towards themselves, like they maybe focus a lot on chanting, maybe they do a lot of prayers,
mhm,
yeah, I've met a lot of seniors towards the end of their life. They actually turn towards spiritual pursuits, lah. Yeah,
mm.
to find meaning in their life. Um, yeah, I think it really depends. For as many seniors that I've seen, meaning is different for every single one of them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so now to the attendees, if any of you want to ask a question, please raise your hand or somehow wave at me so that I will know. So is there anyone that have a question for Dr. Chu? Okay, while waiting, I have a question for you actually.
Okay.
Uh, is there any difference between, in terms of help-seeking behavior or how they cope between a male senior and a female senior?
Hmm.
Or maybe I can also ask from the other perspective is in terms of supporting the senior, is there any gender differences that we need to be aware of, for example?
Yeah, so a lot of times I find female seniors to be more open
Mm-hmm.
and more forward
Mm-hmm.
uh, with sharing. And I think this is just generally how it is with genders, right? In general, in society, in our society, females will confide in one another easily, and then, males tend to have to portray a more stoic front. They are less they feel more ashamed like if they have to talk about problems in front of their friends anyway. So actually for males who come to see us, I always appreciate their courage and their openness to come forward
Mm-hmm.
and to share, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that if we can really, really show a lot of respect for them coming forward, really take care to protect their dignity, and to appreciate a lot about, a lot of things that we can see lah, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like, okay, then it's normal for me to share about my problems with you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. I think with this, just want to check in one last. Oh, Peng Kai has a question. Please
Yeah,
unmute yourself.
yeah. Hi, Peng Kai. Oh, Peng Kai.
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Chu. Yeah, really thanks for sharing. Yeah, I
No
just
problem.
want to share your opinion on this code. Yeah, some time back, I participated in a seminar, specifically for seniors, and one of the presenters shared that, it is common for people to say, find meaning, find purpose. But he said that, we should start changing the narrative to create meaning, create purpose. So
Uh,
wanted to hear your view about this and then how it can better help these seniors to cope
uh,
suicide ideation. Yeah.
right. I like the way or the concept that you're bringing up about it's not about finding, but it's about creating, which means that you may not have, some of us may not have, but then we can still create, right? So it generates a lot of hope to hear that, we can actually create and we can create together. If you're the person helping the senior, you can say, let's explore what are the things that makes you feel happy, makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel at ease. Yeah. And I think a lot of times talking about their past, talking about their life in general, it will help the person find out, you know, like what is the meaning that they have been that is important for them all their life. And right now, as a senior, maybe not as how to say, not as strong as in the past, how can they still have meaning in life right now? How can they create new meaning for themselves? Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know
Thank,
if I I also feel like you want to share this concept too with the group. So I'm also happy to hear from you, like, what you have in mind when you ask that.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Chu. Yeah. Yes, definitely what you shared is resonate what I have learned from that seminar sometime back. Yeah, also, yeah, I thought it would be great, yeah, to share this narrative, and perhaps if it is something useful, then it's something that can be more people can adopt it, and then,
Yeah.
to really help our seniors better. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ping Kai.
thank you. Any uh, final questions from the floor? Or you can put it in the Zoom chat as well. Okay. So with this, a big thanks to Dr. Chu. We have learned so much, and I think it's sharings like this that really reminds us at the end of the day that there is no one size fits all, and it's important for us to know. Oh, Agnes just posted a question. Okay, I'm just gonna use. I'm gonna end now with Agnes' question. Okay.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
how do we take care not to make the senior feel abandoned at the end of the counseling session? Some seniors are more unhappy that they see so many counselors.
Oh, I'm surprised to hear that seniors see a lot of counselors. Um, hmm, yeah, that's new to me. I guess maybe in the helping line, right? Sometimes the senior may be talking to somebody, and then the somebody refer her to see another person, and then see another person. So they could be seeing case manager lah, social worker lah, center managers lah, counselors lah. Uh, by right, usually if we are receiving counseling from one person or one agency, we won't be duplicating with many, many different people lah, workers, because then, of course, I can understand why they're unhappy, right? Because they have to repeat their story so many times. Yeah. So yeah, if it's possible not to, when we work with seniors, to try to make sure there's one point of contact, the one main person that they go to, and then if you're referring them for other services, for example, like be very clear about what is the purpose of this referral, so that they know, you know. Yeah. So what you share is not unusual lah. Sometimes we go in and they say, oh, who are you? Where you from? Like why I'm seeing another person now, like what are you helping me with? Yeah, so we need to be very clear with them. Yeah.
Mm. And for any other attendees, you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to email. Her email is yaping@ojoy.org.
Yeah.
I think, as I said earlier, it's sessions like this that remind us that there's really no one size fits all. And it's important for us to know as much as we can, right? And be equipped so that when time comes and we need to have that skill set and insight, it all comes into play. And I think when it comes to seniors, there's really no better people to support them other than the fellow seniors and people like us in the community as well, right? And not just the professionals, but how do we work alongside the professional as a community? So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Chu. Any
Okay,
closing word for
thank you
us?
so much. No. Thank you so much, everyone. Wish you all a very good afternoon today and the rest of the day. Yeah.